I believe, down at the bottom in mid 2019, beginning 2020, I think, or around there. So got back in there, got anxious, sold too early, of course. I thought there was going to be a resistance around 20,000, right? Like,
Bitcoin?
For Bitcoin, a good resistance there, but there wasn't.
Well, I remember when Bitcoin hit 20,000 and everybody thought this was like the end of the world.
Totally.
They were like,
100%.
20 grand, this is insane.
And now taking mortgages out on their house, and man, they got wrecked. But little did they know, if they would have held for another year, even, that they could have
that's
hedged against that and still won.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but that's kind of the hard part,
totally.
Right? Is people jumping in too early and not really know what's going on.
Totally.
All right, but keep going.
So but I sold cars for a little while. It was kind of in the car space. I didn't have the support that I really needed from management on that one. It was more, I mean, the car world is just hire anyone that breathes. And just say good luck, right? Like if you can fog up a mirror, they're going to throw you in there. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. It helped kind of spice up my sales experience. But right now we sell high ticket items for coaches and mentors. And we kind of found a hole in the market where there's a lot of people that were training in the sales space, but they weren't placing them in the right positions to give them the head start, if you will.
Right.
Because the hardest part about sales is getting that first offer to sell for. Right. Yeah. Everyone has gone through some sort of sales course. But everyone that we talk to is like, man, I already spent $10K on a sales course, but I can't find a job. I can't find an offer to sell.
Well,
so we have direct placement with that.
Yeah.
So part of our academy, it's a lifelong academy where once you're in, if you're selling and the leads dry up, we'll find you a new offer to sell for. So it's kind of what we're doing now. A little sneak peek of that.
That's interesting too. So I guess we can jump right into that because it's kind of along the same lines as crypto. People kind of jumping into a space, and because it sounds like if you're like us and you know how to sell, then it's like, oh yeah, sales is easy.
Right.
And you're talking to somebody that never sold, and you go, yeah, we can sell that offer. That's easy. They'll pay you 10%. It's a 10K, 15K offer.
Right.
And I spend 30 minutes on a call with one of their clients, and we shut it down and we make, whatever, 30, $3 grand, $4 grand in 30 minutes. And so, then people will jump too early and not really think about it. You said that you were finding that quite a bit, people jumping into a sales program and then not getting, I guess my question around that is, what were they expecting to do with us?
Right. And what we're finding is, I mean, in the high ticket world, finding an offer to sell for it's kind of like a lion's den. Meat gets thrown in and everybody jumps on it, right? You'll look at some of these groups that offer positions, right? And within 10 minutes of a position being posted, there's 100 comments on it of like, I applied for it. And so there's so many people trying to hop on just specific offers. Michael comes from a world of working with coaches. He was a coach himself. So he has a good network there of people that are doing $500,000 that are still doing all the sales by themselves.
Okay.
So by us supplying them with a salesperson, we're able to scale their sales because we have experience. And then from there, they're able to focus on their genius, what they're actually doing. Because a lot of them don't care about selling, right? Like that's not what they're passionate about. So we find people that are passionate.
A lot of them are really terrible at sales.
100%. Totally.
I've talked to coaches and I'm like,
and they're just like, I just win every call.
You need some help.
Exactly. And it's like, man, like let's get that close ratio. Maybe you're at a 10%. Let's get up to a 30%. That's baseline for us. Like we should be hitting that 30%. Depending on where the leads are coming from and the heat of the leads.
30% is good.
30%. I mean, that's a good baseline that I think that most closers should strive to hit.
Yeah, I think if you're not in the 30 or 40, you need to get like some more sales training.
100%. And what I've noticed is the more that you spend on your training, a lot of people will get in and expect their first month to hit 10K.
Sure.
Right. That's kind of the expectation that has been given. What I found is the amount of money that you spend on your training is normally equates to what you're going to make a month, right? Like if you're buying a $10,000 course, maybe you're going to hit that 10K.
Yeah.
But if you're just expecting to take a free course online or just YouTube it, right? I completely believe in YouTube Academy, right? Like that's where I got my degree. I went to college for 2 years, a year, 2 semesters, and from there I dropped out because YouTube was teaching me more than any of my professors were.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But you need some dedication of someone that's hands-on in the space that knows what they're doing. I don't know a lot about your sales genius. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Fill me in a little bit more on those details.
Yeah. So I wrote a book called Sales Genius, and basically it was a framework for people, for like coaches and small business owners, so that they could, if they were talking face to face with somebody, they could have some kind of framework, right? And I always tell this to people, like when I talk to seasoned sales people or like sales trainers, like if you read the book, you might learn 1 or 2 things, but it's not going to be anything new, right? Because sales is sales, and that's actually one of my hot takes on sales. It's like if you can sell a car, you can sell SaaS.
100%.
Now there's some nuances that you got to learn, and I understand that it's a little more detailed. But at the end of the day, like a sales process is a sales process. So my Sales Genius, so that's the book. And then the training that I do is like I focus on those new business owners or the new coaches who you can't afford a closer yet. You can't afford to pay somebody like that yet. But and here's the thing about that, because I'm like by trade, I'm an accountant. Oh, nice. And I'm a finance guy. So the thing is like when people outsource sales, right? You're like, that's why I think what you guys are doing is great, because you're like, hey, we take the whole sales, we take all of that off of you. So you don't have to worry about if they're trained or what they need to say or anything like that. Like we'll take care of it for you. Right. But because what I found is even when a business owner or a coach, they get a salesperson, like you don't really know, you don't know what to tell them, right? Sure. Like if I don't
know that language.
If like if a new sales guy is running in there, they're hot off a course, they're like, I'm ready. Right. Each industry is different. The questions don't translate different, the same. So that's what I do. So I teach them how to sell, and then I give them a nice like process. So like, okay, now you know how to sell. Now you know how to talk to a salesperson. You get a few sales, get your business up where you want it to be, and then when you go hire a salesperson, you can give them something. You can be like, hey, here's everything that's worked for me. Yeah. And then go do it, right? Because if you don't know how to talk to a sales, like an accountant, right? Like if you go to an accountant and you're like, it's like, do you watch The Office? Yeah. Have you seen the episode where Michael, they do the Michael Scott Paper Company and they're sitting in front of that accountant? Yeah. And he's like, crunch the numbers again. Right. And then he's like, presses the button. Yeah, and he's like, it doesn't work, right? Like if you don't know how to talk to an accountant, they're not going to, they're going to be a douche to you. Yeah. So that's kind of where it came from.
I like that. So how long is that like, how is it a mentorship, like running through like the framework of that? Like how
so it's a 7-week program. Oh, cool. So there's a few things that I do, like, because I want everybody to get some kind of training. If you can buy the book, you can sign up for like one call, but the 7-week intensive one is where it's at. Nice. We go through everything, and you learn like the basics. You learn enough, like, and I give you like personalized scripts that and you learn enough to get going. Right. Like that'll help you sell 3, 4, 10 right out the gate.
Sure. And scripts are so powerful. Like I think so many people are like, we've had people that are asked and they're like, well, do you use a script? And we say yes, and they're turned off by that because it's too robotic. But I mean, any great salesperson has a script.
Well, what I say to scripts, and I'm sure, I mean, I've said this a lot, but what I tell people scripts, right? Because people, I'm not going to sound, everybody's going to know. And I go, well, I go, well, think of your favorite movie. Yeah. And think of the worst movie. For sure. You know what I'm saying? Sure. And what's the difference? They all have scripts. Yeah. But like Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the best actors in the world because he makes the script his own.
100%. Yeah. Right. And you don't watch a movie and think, oh, that was scripted. Right. Like that's really. They put the emotion and the passion and so much into it, and the tonality of different things, right? Like there's so much that goes into the process of a sell, and so many tools that you have under your belt of ways to sell, right? Yeah. So Michael and I, our favorite way to sell going into that is conversational, just like this, right? Yeah. And I think that if you can't hold a proper conversation with someone, That's step one, right? For sure. I've taken a lot of calls with closers. It's cool to be on both aspects because I talk to coaches and I talk to closers, so I get to see what people are doing. And a lot of people that come from like Dan Locke's course, they try to hold the silence as long as possible.
I hate
So
that.
Right, like
that guy is a charlatan.
Oh man,
and I'll tell it to his face too.
Oh right, like give me the opportunity, I'll be right there with you.
Like,
it's so bad, but I know you just put on a fancy suit and put some $100 bills in your pocket and say I sell, and people believe you.
Yeah, and use the credit card and make a fancy video.
Exactly.
But hey, listen, that guy's videos are crispy though. I mean, if you see a crispy video, you're like, all right, this might. And if you've never known sales, then you're like, damn, that's the bomb. But,
sure.
Yeah, but anybody who, I don't know. That's just me.
I agree. I back it up. And I think that's the key part of sales is there's so many tools that you can put in your belt of the sales process. It's a matter of making a hybrid of your own sales system, right? What flows with you. And that goes into the same as actors, right? You can give the same actor, different actors the same script, and each one of them is going to perform it differently. And I think that's the key to sales as well, is make the process your own, make a hybrid system. But there's a lot of these salespeople that I would ask a question to. I'd be like, all right, so how long have you been selling for? Like 5 years. And then I'll be sitting there like, I can hold the silence too. Like I'm fine with that. Like I can sit here and
that's it. It's just irritating.
It is like that's not a conversation, right? You like clients don't want you to just make them feel stupid in a different sense, right? Because that's what that's trying to do is give them the bare minimum information, like they should know that. They're on the call to figure that information out and receive as much information. Money is exchanged when more value is provided than the value, the price of the product, right? I tell a lot of people that I'm selling to, I'm upfront with them. I say, look, this product, I compare it to a car sale, right? Because I'm from the car world. I say, sell you this car for $70,000. You're probably going to tell me to go eat sand because, right? But then you find out later down the road that it's a Lamborghini Huracan, and you're going to do everything you possibly can to get $70,000 in my pocket because the value is so much more than the price, right? And so it's providing that value to the customer. And presenting in a way that they can see really what they're buying. And there's the whole difference between a salesperson and a closer, right? A closer doesn't take no for an answer and keeps going, where a salesperson just provides the value, and if it goes, it goes. Exactly, right? I don't know where I was going with that.
No, I like it though. And I think people, they just, if you're new to sales, you get sucked into some of these guys. But if you're good at what you do, and you can like hold a conversation, but you can also like help people understand what's going on. Like I approach sales from like a value-based and a consultative-based selling approach.
Right.
So I ask a lot of questions. But I've kind of learned my art, and I say mine intentionally because like everybody's different. Sure. And so when I'm on a call with like a client and I'm teaching them how to sell, I'm like, look, dude, here's the deal. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, I'm going to start spitballing ideas, and I need you to use your knowledge in your industry to kind of help me put all this together. So we kind of like, even in that coaching aspect, we kind of like collaborate together, because I'm going to throw out, and you're going to be like, oh, maybe that's a better question. Right. And I'm going to be like, hey, but that's the idea, right? So even in my coaching idea, that's like, we're going to figure this out together. I am going to come across as an expert, but nobody, like you said, like nobody likes a douche.
For sure, right? Well, and they know their industry so much better than you might, right? Like you're a master of sales, not a master of every single niche that's out there. Right. And so the person that knows their question the best and their maybe even their objection is going to be the customer. So by asking those questions is so powerful. And that's somewhere that I originally struggled with. I love talking. I love just having conversation and just having a good time, right? But there's a point where you over talk, and you need to have your client talk, right? Like you're laughing like there's a story behind it.
There is a big story.
I want to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So one of my favorite teaching points is you can talk yourself out of the deal. Yeah. And so I love telling people that. I'm like, they're like, so inevitably somebody will ask me like, how do you become a great closer? And I personally, I think the word is great. I don't think there's any other word you can use, but it makes me cringe a little bit because when I started out in the sales business, I got burned by some like
Closer.
expert closers, you know what I mean? So it's a great word. I don't hate it. It's just like, I try to always find a different word, but they're like, what's the number one rule in negotiation? Or like, how do I become a best closer? And I go, all right, I'll tell you the first rule. Shut the F up.
Yeah,
Shut
absolutely.
up. I go, it's not about you. Shut up.
Yeah.
If you can learn how to shut up, then you'll be a great salesman.
Absolutely. No, and
I've had like several, like, because I trained in, so I was in a dealership where I was responsible for training our dealership and another dealership,
Sure.
like new salespeople. So I would just tell them that.
Yeah. No, and after the client or customer says yes, shut up. Right? Like stop. And I think we probably have the same idea of the word closer. I mean, coming from the car world, there's certain dealerships that have closers, right? There's a sell person that goes, shows them the car, does a test drive, and we bring them into the closer, and that's where they're closed, right? And that's so cringy to me.
It is cringy.
Like if you don't have the skills to do that, you need to up your skills. Like
And what's funny about that is, this is how I tell people, like I define a master closer, but like a master of the whole sales process. So for me, closing isn't one step.
No.
Right, it starts at the beginning, right? Because all those questions I'm asking, and this is why I tell people, this is why your questions are so important. This is what I teach people anyway. I go, your questions are so important because this is ammo for you. You know what I mean? So that, because one of the worst things that you could say in a sales conversation for me is like the car dealership thing, right? Like ends on Monday.
Sure.
Like I think deadlines are important, but that's not how you do it, right? Like that's not a close. That's like a desperation, like, I'm never gonna give you this. And now if I'm the customer, I'm gonna be a jerk and I'm gonna come back tomorrow and make you give me the same deal anyway, because I know you will.
And will, right? And that's the thing.
Because you will.
One of the things that I just posted this on Facebook recently is there's a lot of coaches that will use, especially at the end of the year, prices are going to change at the end of the year, right? Come January, we're raising our price $5,000, whatever it may be. And a lot of them do, which is great. My favorite salesperson is God. God gives us deadlines. The only reason we do anything in life is because we know we're going to die. There's a deadline at the end, right?
Yeah,
so it gives us urgency. And I think urgency is good, but especially with car sales, I mean, you know that you can come back and get that same deal.
Yeah.
They're going to give you
lying,
right?
Well, because I like.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you don't know any better, you do though.
Sure.
And then you grow up in sales, and then you're like, but then you learn what I'm teaching people, and it's like you don't have to do that anymore. There's actually a better way to do that.
There is, and that's the thing. So my mom, she owns a wedding dress store, and they offer a 10% discount if you buy within 24 hours of trying the dress on.
Mm-hmm.
And they hold true to that. Like that's something that they hold true to, because they come back in later and they're going to have to retry on the dress and they're going to waste more time. So if they're decisive right there, they get a discount. And if they don't, then they have to pay full price, and that's fine, right? But there's also still, I love using that industry as kind of a key point, because my wife, she sells wedding dresses, and she doesn't consider herself a salesperson because she loves what she does, what she's doing, and leading up to the set, like she's not selling. She's literally just like she has what they want. They're coming in, they're buying it. So I wouldn't call it a close necessarily. It's more of a sell. But they hold true to what they say. Like car dealerships, they kind of wish-wash, right?
Some of them do. Yeah, some of them do.
But there's been so many times with my wife where she'll be like, so-and-so came and tried on this dress, and someone bought it immediately after, right? And how many times as a car salesman have you seen that happen, right? Like they're checking out the red Mercedes, only red Mercedes on the lot, and they walk away from it and it's sold the next car. Right? And it's almost a bittersweet moment. Because you tell them, you're like, it's not going to stay here for long. Like, yeah, whatever. And then they come back the next day and it's gone. And you're like, sorry,
and that's
I
what
literally
I do.
Told you.
That's when I do one of my favorite, like, Chris Voss named it the accusation audit, right? He wrote Never Split the Difference. But I used to do that to people. I go, all right. I'd be like, all right, Jason, you're going to think I'm like the sleaziest salesperson for what's about to come out of my mouth. But I got to tell you, or else I wouldn't be doing you any justice. And I do go through that, right? Like, you're going to think I'm sleazy, you're going to think I'm lying to you, but this is this car at this price point won't last. And if you want to walk away like that's totally fine. I'm not going to make you buy it.
And I think that's appropriate in certain industries and certain places, but a lot of time, I mean, you don't want to put those questions in their head of like, oh, I didn't think you were sleazy before, but now I do. And like, oh, crap, like let me back.
Sure.
Right? but in certain places and situations,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's so ideal. And I tell people, after I run them through the Lamborghini analogy, right, the car sale, I say I'm not a good salesperson. I'm going to tell you the price up front, and if it's not something that you can do, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to continue to waste time.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. They're
Right.
like, when should I talk about pricing? I'm like, up front?
Yeah.
Because here's my thing. I ask 6 counterintuitive questions up front.
Sure.
And one of the questions I tell people to ask is like, let's say you got 3 packages. It's like $2,000 to $3,500.
Right.
I don't teach people how to ask what's your budget.
Right.
I tell them, I go, just say, hey, I got my prices range from $200 to $3,500 a month or whatever.
Right.
Does that, if you like it enough, or if you think I can provide what you want, does that work for you?
Absolutely.
If they say no, then you can explore a little bit, but you're never gonna like. That was always my worst thing, bro. Like I hated sticker shock.
Oh man.
Right, and whether I was selling digital marketing, whether I was selling cars, whether I was selling $500,000 machines.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can't give an exact price, so I think you should give a range. But yeah, what if they say no, dude? You don't want them to. I'd rather you say no in the first 5 minutes of talking to me than we spent a whole week.
Absolutely.
We spent 2 months together, and you never knew the price, and now it's too expensive.
Right.
No way.
No, and I think the value adding, doing the range is a perfect example, right? Because you want to add value throughout the whole process, and something I've seen that works really well with that is you give them that range. So say your bread and butter package that you sell is $12,000, right? I would give them a range from $3,000 to $20,000. So as you're talking through the value and building up that value and building up that, in their mind, they're thinking this is going to be $20,000. Like what they're selling me on right now is $20,000, and you hit them with the $12,000 price, and they're like, holy crap! Like, I could see the value at $20,000. So now that we're at $12,000, like, sure, let's do it, right? And you have like Alex Hermosi, who it's so much easier for a prospect to say no. And so he uses would you be opposed to moving forward?
Right. Yeah. You ask no-oriented questions.
Right. And I was always taught to get 3 yeses before you ask for the close, because yes is already on their mind type strategy. Right. But there's so many different ways of doing it.
Right.
And it's
and you just got to know like your prospect too.
Absolutely.
Like, there's an exception to every rule. And that's why we, like in my process anyway, like there's some safeguards that we built in to like, if you are on a 1-call close,
sure.
There's, I teach you to ask a question at the end that if it is a 1-call close, they'll buy it in a 1-call close.
Right.
But if it's not, then you're fine.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. I like that a lot because no-oriented questions are great. Like, would it be, and I always like make them dramatic. I go, would it be the worst thing in the world if we got this done before the end of the week?
Right.
Yeah. I guess not.
Right. And especially in that car sales, like, last thing people want to do is go get hassled by another car salesperson, right? And so why not just get it done on the first one?
Yeah. Right? And I always tell people like, and you got to ask more than once, and you're gonna have to do this because what are they supposed to do, bro? We're salespeople. Are they supposed to whip out their checkbook and write you a check?
Right.
No, dude. They're gonna ask you questions. This isn't Best Buy. And by the way, I've met some Best Buy. I used to recruit out of Best Buy.
Sure.
And I used to recruit out of RC Willey because those guys were dogs. And then I would refine their skills a little bit, and then they were on my car sales floor making $10,000 a month.
Man, it's great.
Slinging whips.
It's great.
It's great.
So good.
But there's this idea that but man, that's the kind of the most frustrating part is like, I actually talked to Michael because he knew one of my mentors, Jeb Blunt.
Yeah.
And I went through their sales coaching. I'm about to go through their train the trainer program again.
And I love that. I love that you're still. You're constantly sharpening the sword.
Well, it's this. So I heard. Who is it? The Sad Guru. I also love philosophy. So there's the Sad Guru. He wrote a book called Karma. He wrote a few books about it. I heard him once in a interview, and he was like, your nose is right above your mouth, but you can't smell your bad breath, right? He's like, somebody else will have to tell you that your breath smells bad. He's like, even though your nose is right here.
Yep.
And I've always lived by that. Like, somebody else will have to tell me that breath smells bad. So that's why you gotta like be checking yourself.
You have to.
Get somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I love Michael is even though he's my business partner, he's 100% my mentor.
That's
like,
great.
I mean,
if you can do both, that's
man,
fantastic.
right? Yeah, I'm getting a free mentorship and making money while doing it.
How did you run into that? How did you guys start Super Closers?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Michael got married a couple months ago, and one of my businesses, I had just come out of the car sales world, wasn't a super big fan of it, and I love starting businesses. That's just something I'm passionate about. When I get bored of something, I move on to starting a business. That's kind of what I do. So I started a ring business. My mom owns a wedding shop, right? So I thought I'll get back into the wedding industry. Started men's wedding rings, selling those, and I was just on Utah Connect and said, hey, I have this wedding ring business. What are some alternative ways of marketing? Just kind of reaching out the box. And Michael's like, hey, I'm getting married soon. I have a decent following. Like, I'd love to buy a ring from you. He's like, sure. So I made him a ring, and kind of looked him up a little bit and dug through his profile. And I was like, man, this guy's kind of a baller.
Yeah,
like, he's pretty cool. So I just asked him, said, hey, would you mind going grabbing lunch? He's like, no, I'd love that. So we sat down and I drilled into him. I just asked him question after question. We were eating sushi at Tsunami, and his plate was completely full. Mine was empty because as he was answering questions, I was just stuffing my face, right? And I was like, man, I asked him any questions. I know, like, I loved it. Like, you dug in. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Someone ambitious, someone like that. And the best thing the thing that I can sell about best by far is myself.
Yeah.
Right. If you can't sell yourself, you shouldn't be selling something else. Because I mean, that's a big part of sales is being able to build that rapport and that trust. 100%. So nothing happened for a month from there. And he reached out and said, hey, I have this opportunity if you want to sell for me. And I was like, sure. So started selling some of his, just for one of his clients, one of our clients now. Yeah. And I don't want to say I weaseled my way in, but he had this thing set up, and I started just providing the value, and was just going above and beyond. And he's like, hey, I see you fitting into this role. And just keeping up with, I love relationships. I think relationships is our new economy. And so I built into that and just built a relationship with all of our clients that we were selling for, created Excel sheets and different things of each one of them, what their goals are, KPIs, just different things like that. It's like, I totally see you in that role of taking those responsibilities and being part. So he brought me in. And so one thing that I'm going to be teaching, like, we have weekly Zoom calls inside of our mentorship. Yeah. And I'm super big on mindset. There's been moments where I've had 7 figures and I haven't been able to keep it because a lot of it was in crypto, right? And when you're given 7 figures practically, and you didn't work for that and you didn't build up to that, my anxiety levels went up because I finally had something to lose, right? You think about being broke. What you have to lose is someone foreclosing on your house or kicking you out of your apartment, right? Sure. And that's scary, but there's the opposite spectrum of that people don't realize, that when you have money, you can now lose that money, right? And so it was kind of a weird concept to me of, everyone thinks if I had $1 million, I would be able to do X, Y, and Z. You get that $1 million and it's not enough, right? Without the right mindset, without building that growth. And so I made my first 7 figures when I was in the crypto space in 2016, 2017, right around the boom, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue what I was doing. Nobody knew what they were doing. Seriously. Nobody knew. And so the bull run came, and I tried doing, or the bear market came, and I tried doing the same thing that I had done to make that money. Yeah. And I was doing the exact opposite. I was getting a 10% loss here, and so I moved it into another coin that I thought would be safer. Got a 10% loss there, and slowly, exactly. I was like, man, if this was the opposite way, I'd be making bank, because that's the whole point of trading, right? Is move a coin from 10% gains to another coin that gets 10% gains, so on and so forth. I was doing that with losing, and so that was kind of my first awakening to the mindset around money, and not just having the money, but how to retain it. Yeah. And then from there, you learn that money is just a tool. Right. It doesn't. do anything unless you have the skill set to use that tool,
Yeah.
if you will, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of my mindset journey will transition into mindset developer.
Mhm.
So my mindset journey, I lived a pretty victim mentality all the way through high school. I'm 25 now, so I'm still pretty young. But I lived a really strong victim mentality. I have a disease called muscular dystrophy, emerald-dreyfus, right? So I have it pretty good for someone that has muscular dystrophy, right? There's people that are dying at 18 and different things, and wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
I have it pretty good. But in high school, I let this kind of become who I was, that I was a victim because I couldn't go to the gym and lift the same weights as other people. And just kind of built this up in my head. And it wasn't until I turned 18, I was getting ready to serve a mission from LDS. And I went in for my last physical to go on my mission. And they told me that I needed an emergency heart surgery. And I was pissed at God.
Yeah.
I was mad because here I am trying to serve him, and now I have to get a pacemaker. Like, shouldn't I just magically be healed because I'm going to serve you, right? Like, I thought that's how it worked. No.
Yeah.
And so I was super, super upset. I didn't talk to anyone for 3 days. I had the heart surgery 3 days after I was told that I needed heart surgery, so it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
My resting heart rate was 39 beats a minute. Just a resting heart rate, and then when I was sleeping, it was dropping down into the 20s, and they're like, "Dude, you should be
usually it's like 90, and then it drops to 40 if you're
seriously." And I was running a mile every day, like I was fairly healthy, but I
know I meant what that was normally, right? Like normally you're in like the 90 to 100, 100%. And then when you sleep, it's like 40 to 60,
right?
But if you're lower than that, that's a problem.
Yeah. So they got me plugged into a pacemaker. Those days leading up to that surgery, I didn't talk to anyone, and I was bitter for a little while. Then I got out on my mission, and I learned the value of serving other people.
Yeah.
Just being able to provide value to people, serving them, and getting outside of yourself, and that kind of started my mindset shift, right? So now I look at it as I have a $100,000 chest. I mean, I don't even think Dolly Parton could say that, right? Like, and so seriously, so I have a more expensive chest than other people, and sure, there's some things I can't do. I can't underwater weld, which, funny enough, I got welding certified in high school, and I got scuba diving certified, and that was actually something I was looking at, and I was like, oh, I guess not.
Underwater welders make
they do.
They make a lot.
I would say right next to salespeople.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had underwater divers. I grew up in a town in Iowa where, right the dam right there.
Yeah.
They would they had underwater dam inspectors, and then they would go and repair the dam, and like welders would go down there. Freaking crazy.
It takes a toll on your body though.
It does, because you're under there for a little bit longer than a normal scuba diver would be. But that's another thing.
So, but that started leading into like this mindset shift of, just the basic like affirmations, like what you put out into the world is what you're projecting onto yourself, right? Like what you're saying. If you continue to repeat that you're broke, you're gonna stay broke. Right? Like that's just
because there's no other way out. Right?
Exactly, right? And so you start talking better about yourself, start building up that confidence, start building up that things and those different attributes. And I think that's something that's so powerful with salespeople as well.
Yeah.
Is when you first get in the space, you don't know anything, right? Like it's a new thing unless you're born just a wizard. But you got to build those up step by step, and it's the same thing with your confidence. And that's a big part of selling, is you got to have that confidence to be able to sell, because you're selling yourself and you're selling the product. And if you can't sell yourself, you need to work on that. I mean that's just plain and simple.
Yeah.
And so I just read a quote. I just retweeted it on Twitter. Started using Twitter after a while. Twitter kind of died down, and now it's back up a little bit. So.
My Twitter's where it's at. Hey bro, if you like NFTs,
dude. Oh man, I'm on crypto Twitter for sure. Yeah, I've been on crypto Twitter for a while. That's where I was finding all of my gems back in the day. I mean, they're
Twitter's back. I'm on Twitter a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got like BitLord and different.
Yeah, all those guys on there. Yeah, that's cool, man.
But it was a person doesn't have control over their future. They have control over their habits, and that controls their future.
Right.
Right. And so something that I've been doing that's been so powerful is just time blocking. And I think everyone needs to be time blocking. So it starts off in the morning, wake up at 6:30. Wake up early. You have so much more time in the day.
Right.
I've had more energy since I've been waking up early, right? And I still go to bed at 11. Like I'm not I'm not Alex Hormozy going to bed at 9 o'clock every day and waking up at
or Marky 3. Or our boy Marky Mark.
Yeah,
he goes to bed at like 6.
He does. It wakes up.
2.
Yeah, that's crazy. Man, there'd be way too much time in the day. Like I don't know what I would do with all that. Like sun's not even up. Like what do you do? But go to the gym, right? Get your fluids going, blood pumping through everything. And I have muscular dystrophy, right? People are like, I don't. They have every excuse in the book not to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
I literally, if I rip my muscles too much, they do not repair themselves, right? And so that's my form of muscular dystrophy. It's degenerative.
Yeah.
Generates my muscles. So go get some blood pumping, and then come home, cook 3 eggs, have a protein shake with that, hop in a cold shower.
Yeah.
Man, cold showers are powerful.
And they're harder than ice baths.
Oh, man, they are.
I do ice baths.
Man.
Cold shower is way worse than an ice bath.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Good.
Or no, excuse me. Yeah. I said that right. Cold shower, because normally in a ice bath, you're just there for like 5 to 6 minutes is like all you need in an ice bath. But and sometimes I'll do like I call it a Dalton cold shower, where I start it warm and then get it cold. But no, for sure. Like, have you heard of Wim Hof?
Love him.
Yeah. Like he'll just do ice baths.
Right.
But cold showers are tough because it's like mentally harder.
Sure.
Like you're hopping in an ice bath, like I know I'm getting cold.
Right.
But if you take hot showers, then you hop in the cold one. But yeah, so cold showers are great.
So cold showers are awesome.
Yeah.
And then from there, I do some breathing exercises. Right?
Yeah.
So Wim Hof, super powerful. And I've had some crazy, like I haven't been really big into meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some crazy spiritual, like just out of body experiences, if you will.
Yeah.
Doing breathing exercises.
Yeah.
Like you're able to connect with yourself on such a unique level, just focusing on your breathing. Right. And I mean, what it does for anxiety levels and depression and different things that way is super powerful. And then from there, I finally start my morning, right? I check my phone, do some different things that way. But time blocking, having an hour, 2 hours in the morning for yourself, so powerful to be able to connect to you, understand what your body's telling you, right? Because when you're sick, your body's telling you, but we're normally distracting ourselves with social media, with different things, right? And so being able to connect with your body and figure out where you need work, kind of do that evaluation, different things that way. But so ice baths.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing like Wim Hof type stuff?
Wim Hof, ice baths. I heard about Wim Hof a long time ago. I can't really remember like the year, but ice baths and like saunas.
Sure.
I just started getting like cold therapy.
Nice.
I've been doing it for a while, right? I haven't been doing it lately, but my goal is to get one of those troughs.
Yeah.
And just do ice baths there. But we used to do them like in like in high school, in college, for sports and stuff like that. You just hop in an ice bath because it's way better for your body. Like, cold is way better for your body than heat is.
Well, the adrenaline spike and different things that help repair muscles.
Yeah, and
just recover.
And people think like you don't need that long in an ice bath. You need like 3 to 5 minutes is generally like all you need.
Absolutely.
And like even then, some experts will be like 3 to 5 minutes, like 3 to 4 times a week. Like, you don't even need to do it every day to get like the full benefit.
Sure.
And you can't. But one of the trippiest experiences I ever had was doing hot, then cold, then hot. Then cold.
Start hallucinating.
So doing like a sauna, then you jump right in the cold.
Sure.
But I found out, because I'm Russian, and I found out that that's what like the Russians used to do. They just sit in a dry sauna and then they'd go jump in a cold ass lake.
Brought out your heritage.
Yeah, and then it was cool. And that's kind of when I started doing that. But I also met, do you know Mitch Matthews? He's a BYU football player. He went to the NFL.
Okay.
But he also is in that Wim Hof group. So he went with Lewis Howes and a few other people to kind of break Wim Hof out of obscurity.
Sure.
Because Wim Hof, like nobody knew who he was until like it was pretty rare that you did if you were like maybe deep underground stuff. But what was it, like 2016, 15, 16? Wim Hof hops on a podcast with Lewis Howes, and you see all these guys go. So you have like Mike Posner, Mitch Matthews, Lewis Howes. These guys all go to wherever Wim Hof is from. I can't remember.
I think it was like Alaska or something.
No. They went to like
Alaska now.
He's in Alaska now, but they went to like Europe, wherever he was in like the Netherlands or something. I don't know where he's from. Look up where Wim Hof is from.
Okay.
They went there, and they did like they just sat in his thing. He's got a crazy story by himself, but he's cool. Wim Hof's great.
Netherlands.
Okay, I was right. So he's in this cold Netherlands. He was the guy who I was telling one of my buddies about that. He climbed like halfway up Mount Everest with nothing, with no protective gear.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he got to the summit. No. I think he got. But he got further up there, like
past base camp.
Yeah, I mean, and you're like, and past base camp, you're in oxygen masks. You're in like So I didn't know this about Mount Everest, but you start on Mount Everest, and then you go up, and then you come back down, and then you climb up a little further, and then you come all the way back down, and then you go up a little further, and they do that like 3 or 4 times to get like your body used to the air, and you're still in oxygen mask. And Wim Hof just was like, one day he was like, whoop, and just. Mark, and then he got up there, and I think he only quit because, I can't remember why he quit, but I don't think it was like anything. He was like breathing fine. Yeah, he was like, it might have been like maybe his skin with like the elements because it gets pretty gnarly up there. But he was breathing fine, and he came back down.
I want to say he holds the world record for sitting in ice bath the longest.
Yeah, he does.
And they put him in like a freezing suit and had like all these monitors and different things, and he was literally able to raise his body
internal body temperature
so crazy.
With his breath. And there's a book called so James Nestor wrote a book called Breathe. It's a great book. He basically makes fun of mouth breathers, but it's pretty funny. But it's also a really interesting book. It's a great book. But James Nestor wrote another book called Deep, where he studied free divers and breathing with free divers, and then he wrote a book called Get High Now. but it's like Get High Now with like breath work.
Right.
Because you can
natural DMT type stuff.
Yeah.
Where you can podcast now, bringing up
there's some cool stuff with like your breath that you can do, just with like you can have some pretty cool experiences just with your breath. And it's great. And what it does for breathing and cold therapy, what it does for your mind too, is like, it's not a joke.
It does. I mean, and the only way is like, I've had anxiety attacks before and different things like that. Right. And the only way I've ever been able to get out of them is breathing.
Yeah.
Right. That's the best way. If you're ever having an anxiety attack, go take some deep breaths and chill out for a minute.
That's what we teach our kids. So I teach my kids breath work. Well, they had this monastery. There's a story that I read about this monastery. They were training young people. I don't know if they were going to be monks or if they were just training these young kids or whatever. But they taught them breath work, and one of the people came up and they were like, "Why are you teaching these kids breathing first? Like these kids don't know how to read. They really don't know how to talk." He's like, because when your emotions have a range, and whenever your emotions change, the first thing that changes with your emotion is your breath.
Right.
So the first thing that happens when you get angry is your breath shortens. And most people are really shallow. Like all of us are really shallow breathers anyway.
Sure.
Like it's really, our lung capacity is shrank. And this is kind of one of the things that James Nestor goes over in that book, Breath, is like our lung capacity has shrank. Our noses have changed over time because we are breathing through our, mouths more. And so they teach kids to breathe, because when you get mad, the first, and I was like, BS. So I look at my kids, and for sure enough, dude, they're getting mad and they're hyperventilating, and I'm like, holy crap. So then before we talk, we'll just do we'll take a few deep breaths, and I'll do it with them because I'm usually pissed when I'm mad at them. When they do something dumb, I'm like, you got it. I'm like, dang.
Well, and my wife is here, and so I hate bringing her up, but I can always tell when a fight's going to start, because there's always a sigh that happens first. You can hear the preventative of
but you're breathing. Yeah, so that's why I was like, when these guys said that, they're like, for all of us, the first thing that changes when your emotions, or when you get really excited,
right?
Your breath changes.
Absolutely.
When you get scared, your breath changes. When you get tired, your breath changes. The first thing, and I was like, they're like, the first thing that happens. So if you want to start, and I don't believe in thought control or emotional control. I believe in thought management and emotion management because they happen.
Yeah.
And it's not if you can stop them, it's if you can manage them.
Yeah.
And so he's like, the first step for emotional management is checking your breathing. So the first thing that happens is you realize what's going on. You step back and take a few deep breaths. But yeah, so breathing does a lot for your mindset. It does a lot for sales too, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, yeah, because I you can teach a lot of the technical. Like anybody can learn the technical side of sales,
sure.
But it really is like if you can control your emotions long enough, you can manage those long enough, and that's kind of the saying that Jeb Blunt uses. He'll say, whoever manages, it's not whoever speaks first loses, it's whoever loses their emotions first loses. And not loses, but like he comes from a sales perspective. Like if you lose your emotions, you'll lose as a salesperson.
Well, and a client buys off of emotion, justifies with logic,
Sure.
right? Everybody's heard that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that ties in perfectly.
Yeah.
As a salesperson, if you're starting to get emotional and say, "Oh, I need this sell or I can't pay rent," and you start building those emotions into your sales, you can tell when that salesperson's desperate.
Well, yeah, but here's so I teach that, and what the crazy part about because everybody can see who's desperate,
Sure.
But the problem is like because I'm also a sales psychology buff, right? And like the problem is like if I'm selling desperate, like there's two things that are going on with the person that you're talking to. First of all, they don't care, and they shouldn't care. Like it's not their problem.
Right.
They got a bag full of crap that they're dealing with, and we all do. And I'm not saying empathy doesn't exist. I'm just saying like normally like leading with trying to get a sale and leading with I need to feed my kids. I'm probably not going to buy from you.
Right.
And the second thing that happens is like your primal brain doesn't know the difference between a desperate like I need to survive and like harm.
Sure.
Like your brain doesn't know the difference. So like I'm like
fight mode.
Yeah, I'm like 5'11", 6 foot. I'm bald. I have a beard and I got a big old tattoo. Okay, but I'm really nice. But I had to learn like I can't run up on people. Like, if I walk too quick to people, they just see a bald guy and they don't know me. A bigger bald guy with a beard. Like, and I can have the biggest smile on my face, and that actually scares people more. If
he's happy.
And he's happy and he's running at me, right? Like that's a problem. And so like I had to learn how to like, be more open,
sure.
make myself a little smaller. And it's not because like, I don't know. Like I'm fat, dude. And I just own it because I love it. I love who I am. And so you got to like find ways to make yourself smaller. You got to find so I had to learn that because people didn't know the difference between me being like running up like that
sure.
and being happy and then being like, there's a problem. Like you're like all your neurons start firing and they're like, something's wrong. Yeah. And so like when you're selling desperate, like I call it commission breath, people can smell it.
Nice.
And they might not know it's like you just are having a bad streak and you're having a bad day. Like all they think is like this guy's hiding something from you because that's what they feel.
Yeah.
Like that's the neurons firing. That's our Neanderthal brain going like, oh dude, what's going on, right?
Right. So I'm interested in hearing more about your kids. How many kids do you have? 2. Okay. Yep. Boy, girl.
I have a daughter who's 5 and I have a son who's 3.
All right. So we're expecting our first kid in March.
Right on.
So what tips do you have for me?
It's the coolest thing in the world, man. I don't think anything really prepares you.
Oh,
I'm LDS too.
Sure. Okay.
And inactive. And you do everything right and things just go crazy. I think and like I'm not even a perfect parent because I grew up like not in an ideal household, so I had to unlearn a lot. Like I'm Polynesian, right? So like if you talk back to your mom, like if you ever have a Polynesian kid, just tell them you're gonna go tell their mom, and they will straighten right up. Because like that's just what you did, and I don't know, is it wrong? Is it right? I don't really. I'm not gonna talk about it.
I've heard that like some of the gangs up here, like the only way out of the gangs are if your mom like says no, like a parental slip.
Yeah. They're like, but they respect. Well, what's funny is like a lot of these like Polynesian or like, a lot of like the Eastern and Polynesia and these kind of cultures are very maternal. So the Western, like this European culture, is one of the only ones that's like paternal.
Really?
Most cultures are like very maternal, very very matriarchal, and not patriarchal. So yes, like women like run that. So like I have Hispanic friends, Latino friends who. It's very matriarchy though. It's like the mom, 100%. Right? I mean, I'm not saying the dads don't do anything. Like I'm not going to bring on a sitcom of the dumb dad, right? But it's very matriarchal. Like most of those, like European is probably the only culture that's patriarchal, where we're like, the dad or whatever. And is it right or wrong? I don't know. All I know is like I grew up in a female matriarchal kind of house, right?
I'm a mama's boy, so I'm completely.
Yeah, and so you just go, you learn. And so, right, I mean, I think that's why I am also like, so I'm a sales guy, but I take these trips because I love to read.
Sure.
And so I take these trips into like I love Native American culture. Right. So when you read about like Native American culture, you inevitably learn about some of the things that they believe in. I mean, that's why they call Mother Earth, right? Like and that's why. Anyway, I could go on days about that, right? Because Mother Earth is a creator. Like it would be very easy to assume like we are all creators, and so there is like this maternal, like feminine side that as entrepreneurs, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like there is like this maternal feminine side that you need to like embrace to be able to create, because that's just that's 100%. The creative side of people. Yeah. But I love all the philosophy. Like I was like maybe 12 credits away from getting a bachelor's degree in theology and philosophy, because that's what my uncle had that. Sure. And he was my like religious theology mentor growing up, and it was really cool to he made me question everything.
And that's how you build the best. I mean, just the best testimony is like. You gotta question things in order to really know.
You never take you never take things at face value, but that's also why we grew up. Ben was there. We grew up by Nauvoo.
Oh, nice.
So we grew up right in that kind of belt. If we're gonna go there, because I don't care about that. It's my podcast. But we'll turn it off. But we grew up there. So like, dude, every church doctrine thing, like every anti thing, everybody, I heard it all, bro. Heard every bit of it.
And there was a lot.
Right? Here's the crazy part, though. A lot of it is true. Because in sales, all right, so let's tie this in. In sales, I teach people it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Sure. You can pretty much get away with anything if you know how to say it. And so it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So they would take these crazy turns, and we'd be like, what? And I'd go to my uncle, and I'd be like, dude, what? And he would be like, yeah, that happened. What'd you think? And he was like, okay, so now that I've rocked you a little bit and you're questioning everything, now that I've broken this all down, now I can kind of build it back up correctly.
Sure.
And so he would run us through it. But yeah, dude, and I'm like, and so I served. So I grew up in the Midwest. I served my mission in St. George.
No way.
And so I would run into people who hated the church.
Oh man. I say that St. George. So I'm in Cedar City.
So okay, yeah, right there, yeah. Right? So I served in Cedar City.
Yeah.
So right on SU.
I say that St. George is where members go to disappear from the church. Like,
and
we get away from it.
Yeah, Sugar House is Salt Lake.
Yeah.
South Salt Lake Sugar House is where members go to retire. And but yeah, I don't know. People come up to me, like I have friends who come up to me and say all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, and so this is how I start conversations about the church. I go, are you trying to convince, or like, are we going to talk about it? Because I'll talk to you about it.
Sure.
And we'll leave like friends. But like, if you think that with this, we're going to end, both of us are going to enter this conversation. And if either one of us has like an ulterior motive to like convince the other, like I'm not interested, because I don't.
Absolutely.
Like, because I just, well, and I'm like, I grew up in the Midwest where like, you just, and I'm not saying this isn't everywhere else, but I just grew up in the Midwest where like, dude, like we had, one of my freaking young men's presidents went out, in between when we had 3-hour church, went out to take a smoke break, and then he would come back in. So I don't know what to tell you, dude, because we only had one.
Well,
like we only had one.
Well, that's the great thing of the church outside of Utah, right? Like
in
Utah, there's a culture.
Sure.
It is. Are you Latter-day Saints enough?
Yeah.
Thing,
sure,
right?
sure.
And I mean, honestly, like Christ was the best salesperson. I love that analogy, right? Christ sold himself to us for our salvation in so many ways.
And he really lays out a really good sales process. Hey, I'll tell you, you want to hear something crazy? So I go on my mission. They do the MTC thing, and we go through Preach My Gospel. That's when I came out, right?
Good.
And we go through the whole 2 years, and I go sit in my first like legit sales training. Like we were training, and we'd spent a lot of money to be there, and we were expected to be there, and we sit down and we get through the first day, and I'm like, bro, this is the manual. This is Preach My Gospel. Right? Literally, it's like, all right, so what is your purpose as a salesperson, right? Like, how do salespeople act? Like, what are attributes of salespeople?
Nice.
You know what I mean? What do we sell? How do you so chapter 10? How do I improve my teaching skills? That's your demo chapter? Sure. How do you run a successful demo? Go right there, bro.
That's awesome. So let's transition back into I need advice.
Sure.
The first
yeah. Parent. Right. That's what we did. That's what dude. What do you do as a parent? That's a great question, man. I think everything starts with. I think everything starts with me and my wife. Because kids. So the psychology of a kid is first they seek approval from their parents, and then they seek approval from their peers.
Sure.
And they'll seek approval from their peers if they found, and as they start to seek approval from their peers, that will model how the parents, you know what I mean, how the parents acted and stuff like that. So I really think, because I'm very stoic in my philosophy of life. So like, first of all, I don't believe in raising kids. Because I'm from Iowa, you raise cattle.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm big on that. Like you train a dog. You don't train a salesperson. You educate humans.
Yeah. So you grow them and you build them up, right? So I talked to one of my friends about that, though, and he was like, "What?" Hey, he's from Texas.
That's where I serve my Texas. So
Texas, Tejas. So anyway, I think it starts there, right? So because like you can't control your kids, they're gonna do dumb shit, like. But I love my boy though, because I'm like, how did you think of that, dude?
Sure.
And I'm like, it's a beautiful thing. I just think he just enjoyed it, dude. Like, there's gonna be so many parenting things, and I've got, I don't know, dude. I've gotten in fights with my wife's friends over like how you parent people. I'm like, I don't know. Is there one right way to do it?
No.
I don't know, because I turned out okay, and I had whatever. I just think it's more about principles, but I think it just starts with like me and my wife.
Good.
Like, how do you treat each other? How do you treat because your kids will see disagreements, and like everything's spongy. I think kids also start with empathy. Like, I used to believe that like my little girl was like manipulating me, and then it was like, she's not manipulating you, dude. Like, we're survival. Like, humans, think about this. This is trippy. Humans are we're mammals. Right. We're also we're the only mammal where the baby is born too early. So like, think about a horse.
Yeah.
They're up on their feet.
Oh man.
They're eating. They know where to eat. They know where to go.
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's some protection there. Like think about bears. Like, they know, right? They know where to go. We're not like that. No. We're not built like that.
Right.
We are very much built on this like need to survive kind of like thing. Right. And I think it's by design because like, bears aren't selfish. Like, they eat, they protect each other, and then they, you know what I mean? They do things, so I think that we have to do that, but it's just funny. Like, we're born too early in the process.
I think I had that thought in the shower once, and then I got too cold and I got out.
Yeah. But you're like,
trippy.
Yeah. So what do you? So you just like patience. I don't know, patience. Like, how they're spongy, so empathy. They're gonna all of that stuff is gonna click real quick. I mean, I didn't believe how quickly kids learn, but it is like astronomically fast. So but and then the other thing I would say to like new parents, not that I should be talking about new parents, but like, just like, forgive yourself. Like, you're gonna dude. I don't know how many times I learned a new thing, and I'm like, dude, I've been doing this wrong for so long. My daughter's gonna hate me. They're gonna grow up and they're gonna need therapy, whatever, all this stuff. And yeah, so
They bounce back pretty quick.
yeah, they do, dude. It's amazing how much they learn and then how much they forget. Like,
Sure.
dude, I told you that like 5 times.
Nice.
But the same things that I do for sales,
Yeah.
like, so I asked my daughter similar questions that I'd ask a customer.
Good.
I'd be like, hey, so, her name's Lilia. I'd be like, Lilia, so we've gone over this a couple times and it just doesn't seem to be clicking. Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
That's so you know what I'm saying? So like a customer, like if they're not buying it, I'd be like, hey, so I've ran through this a couple times. I'm just curious, like what's not right?
Fill me in on
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's going on? And so I'll do those same things, like, and when my daughter asks a lot of questions, I'll mirror. So they're like, can I have some soup? I'm like, soup? She's like, well, yeah, I'm hungry. Hungry? Oh, well, maybe not. We just ate. I'll just go finish my plate.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I do all the
Taking
same
notes?
Oh, don't take notes from me. But yeah, that's the other big thing. I think you just like, but it's cool, man. It's like having a baby was like one of the coolest experiences of my life, and yeah, but I don't know. We also had a very different one because like my wife was induced, like because she had some
Sure.
health stuff running up to the baby, so we were induced she was induced for both of the pregnancies, and then but yeah, it was cool, man. Like watching all these little guys run around. And
so I have a question with that. Well, not with the inducing part,
Sure.
but so my nephew this past Christmas, and this was something that was kind of eye-opening for me. He got, it was like Super Mario Party Line or some game, right? Yeah. And it was actually Monkey Ball, is what it is. I don't know if you're Nintendo game.
Do you know this?
Yeah.
Okay. Right? And so he had passed the most basic courses and go, man, that was hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like you passed it the first time, and that doesn't seem very hard. How do you adjust the mindset? And I don't want to say like adjust, like they're their own person and they need to be validated in their feelings. But the mindset of that was hard. Because I feel like that's the mindset I grew up with.
You put them in. You put them in hard situations.
So how you just continue
I just put them in. Like my daughter is in jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
We were
talking about that. I would love my daughter to be a boxer.
Yeah, my son will be in jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome.
And my daughter is, I don't do it with her enough, but we're gonna pick that up again. But she knows. And you just do hard stuff.
Sure.
Like, and you let them fail. And that I'll tell you what, bro. I didn't know, like, I did not understand what it was like for God, whatever you want to call it, because I'm open to everything, but I believe in God. But I didn't understand how difficult it was. It must be for God to like let people go through hard things.
Man.
I have been like in tears because I cannot let you do that, right? Like my son will just beg and he'll cry and he's got those puppy dogs, those big brown eyes and that big lip, right? And you got to be like, I can't, because the lesson is more important than this moment, right? And it's been like that was unexpected. I did not realize how hard that was going to be. To be able to like say no, hold the line, and be like, no, dude. And I still give in. Like my wife, I'm like I'm not anything special, but I'll reflect at like night when it's just me and my wife and we're on the couch or something like that, and I'll be like, dude, I can't believe how hard that is. And then to see it from like a creative perspective, where like you want your business to work, you want the sale to work, but like there's some things that you can't do, right? Like everybody's like, so before you have a kid and before you run through this, or like before you go through something like this, you're like, well, it's like a football, like the coach can't play the game, right? He could if he wanted to, but he can't because he's got no. Like it's not like that,
right?
You like physically and emotionally and mentally, like there is a weird line, like because we'll say that, right? Like a coach could if he wanted, he could put pads on and go out there, but he has to teach you. No, like that he can't. There's a line that he can't cross. Like, and as much as you try and you want to, it's not ever going to happen. And so it's like a coach, like, so if you're in coaching, you're like, I want this sales guy to do good. Right. I'll just go sell for him. You can't do that.
No.
And even if I could, like, it's not that I can't, or excuse me, it's not that I won't. It's that I can't. Like the word cannot means no more, right? That was one of the trippiest. That was probably one of the most profound lessons that I had to learn, was like, seeing like I could do that for you, dude. I could pick that ball up for you.
Sure.
I could throw the ball at you a different way so that you don't catch it, but I can't.
I could go to your school and beat up that bully.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but that's
Probably
also
pretty
why
fun,
that's why I put my daughter in jiu-jitsu, because
Sure.
because if the school
I
doesn't
love
take
that.
care of it, she will,
I love
and
that.
she has before. Right?
That's so powerful, and I mean, there's the whole concept of women are picked on in our society.
Sure.
Your daughter's never gonna be picked on.
Well, yeah, it was awesome. Dude.
Right?
I got a call one day. Your daughter headlocked somebody and threw him on the ground.
Yeah.
I was like,
What
first
did
of
they
all,
do with her?
first of all, my daughter wouldn't just do that because I don't let her do that. Like I tell her, like our bodies are sacred, like no one touches you, and if they do, this is what you do.
Sure.
So I just asked her. I was like, so what happened? Well, the boy, and it was a boy. The boy came up behind her and I was like, don't call me with this shit ever again.
Yeah.
I was like,
100%.
if this situation happens again, plan on me not answering. Like unless my daughter like went out of her way and attacked somebody,
Sure.
then you can call me. I was like, but my daughter's 5. She weighs 40 pounds. She's less than 4 feet tall.
Man.
Don't call me
Right.
and tell me that she beat somebody up.
Right.
A boy who's
Seriously.
older than her and bigger than her on the playground. I'll take her out for ice cream and I'll bring her back with a balloon and
For
I'll
sure.
embarrass you in front of the whole school.
Good.
No, because
Great
it is,
fight.
yeah. Because I'm also like a feminist.
Yeah.
When I
for
had my
sure.
first daughter, a lot of things changed. I don't know. A lot of things changed. I don't know if you know what you're having.
We're having a girl.
A girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wild
So excited.
ride. And then I had my son, and they're so different. I don't know, all the cliche stuff as a parent. But you know what's funny? It's like they're cliche because they're like true. Like I don't know. I was like, my daughter is nothing like my son. I have to parent them totally
Oh, I
different.
bet.
Totally different. Not even kind of the same. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm treating Travis like Travis is my son. Like I'm treating Travis like Lily. I can't do that because he doesn't respond the same way. So I don't know. I think there's just a lot of patience, a lot of learning. You just have to learn each other. You got to learn your baby. Like this is a baby. But like they're gonna learn, they're gonna adapt and things like that. But a lot of it, like I go, Lilia, where the freak did you learn that? Because I didn't teach you that.
Right.
It's amazing the personality that they bring with themselves too. I don't know. So I don't know.
Well, right now, so wife is pregnant, right?
Yeah.
You kind of established that.
Mhm.
The baby is, whenever she wears pants has a waistband, the baby will attack the waistband.
Dude, it's true.
Like
so
100%, and then she'll move the waistband away, and you can feel like feeling for the waistband, like where did it go? And then put it back, and the baby will attack the waistband. Like, they are 100% coherent in there. Like,
sure.
There's no doubt about it.
Sure. And I don't know. I mean, so there's only a few things, and I know we'll wrap up here in a minute, but there's only a few experiences that I openly talk about, and one of them was, like the feeling that you get when your daughter's born. So for me, I knew, like I saw my kids before they were born. Like I knew exactly who they were. I knew what they were going to look like.
Amazing.
Like there was no surprise. But when they got here, I was like, it was a weird. That's probably another trippy sensation. It's like it wasn't a new person. Like this baby wasn't a new person.
Right.
And even like 9 months and stuff. Not like it's different.
Yeah.
Like I knew.
There's a spiritual connection.
Yeah, there was a deep like, yep, this is exactly where you're supposed to be. And so I thought that was cool. There's just a lot of really cool experiences that if you just breathe through it and take it all in is really cool. Because babies they're just cool, man. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't think there's one parenting advice but you'll know how. And you'll know. You'll be like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Just go back to the drawing board.
That's why journaling is so important there too.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, there's so many things that
That is a good
we
point.
learn through our life, especially as a member of the church,
Mhm.
that we don't understand the why.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're able to piece those together and be like, man, that's why I need to be doing that.
Sure.
That's why.
Sure.
Right. And the why is so important in so many different aspects.
Yeah.
So that connection just made right there.
Yeah, no, it's cool because I do. And by the way, like I learned really quick that like I'd see a lot of things with my daughter that I'm like, oh, that's exactly like me. And so I can give her some shortcuts and be like, I know where this is heading, dude. Like, so like, because I have ADHD and she hasn't been diagnosed with ADHD, but I was like diagnosed with ADHD. And so I see it and I'm like, all right, that's it. Yeah. So I like do things with her that I learned way too late in life. And I do it with her now. And my son's the same way. But it's just cool, man. I don't know. Awesome. What would I tell you finally? I was like, dude, just have a baby and have fun.
Yeah, and that's good. No one's ready. No one's ready to have a baby. They have a baby.
Or like, what do you do? What do you tell? It's like that's my advice for everything. Though. Like, what advice do you have for new podcasts? Or have fun, dude. I don't know.
Do it.
Like, just do it.
And that's what we talked about before the podcast. Is there's a difference between people that say they're going to do stuff and people that just do it.
Yeah.
Right? You started in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Like in your dining room. There's power behind that because you just did it. You weren't perfect.
And I had some big people come into my kitchen too.
Sure,
You guys that know Mo Bettis?
Yeah.
So Chemo Mac.
Sure.
Chemo Mac and Kalani Mac are the owners. Chemo Mac came on my podcast. It was crazy, bro. I was like, all right, Chemo, I was so nervous, bro. I was like, I know you're so busy. I know you're
apologizing.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, we're gonna keep this we're like, I'm gonna keep this to an hour, I promise. Like, I'm gonna respect your time. Right, he talked for like 2 hours, bro. Sure. I couldn't get that guy to stop. And it was amazing, by the way. Listen, and what I liked about your comment earlier was like, you took Michael out to dinner.
Sure.
That's what a lot of people like. I pay for a coach. I'm not saying coaching's bad, but I'm saying like, what was cool about your situation, like, just, can I take you out to lunch? Can I take you on a date? Right. That's what I call it.
Right.
But, Chemo, I was like, hey, you want to come on a podcast? Bro, I learned more in that 2-hour free podcast. And at the time he came on, we didn't have tons of listeners.
Sure.
I thought that was going to be my big break because he was going to share it with everybody, and he shared it on his own stuff, but he didn't have a big social media following. Probably one of like my lower episodes actually. But if you go back and listen to Chemo Mac, he will tell you how to start a business and how to be successful. Sure. I mean, dude, Chemo Mac. I mean, he started Mo Bettis, and then he sold it. And now do you know what he does? He goes to open houses, takes pictures, kisses babies, collects a check, and goes home.
Nice.
And then goes home on his Harley motorcycle.
Sure.
I mean, he does more than that. Don't get me wrong. But he doesn't do as much as
that's life.
He was telling me when they started in Bountiful, they were sleeping in that Bountiful Mo Bettis. They were like sleeping on the floor, like had to get it right.
So powerful.
You know what I mean? He sold his house in Hawaii, moved to Bountiful. All the equity in his house in Hawaii went right into Mo Bettis. He was saying like $100,000 or something like that.
Well, I mean, he's got ability.
And his wife was like, his wife was obviously very. I mean, there's a lot of good things that happen in that. But when you look at the story from a 30,000 foot view, he took every extra penny that he had, and he was, by the way, Chemo Mac started, and you can listen to this on the podcast. He was a bus driver in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
He was a bus driver in Hawaii. He was a full-time and not making any money, listening to a podcast on entrepreneurship.
Nice.
And this is his words. He's like, I flew to Utah, saw mothers outside playing with their children at the park. Went back to Hawaii, nobody was playing at the park. He's like, I want my wife to be able to go to the park and play with my kids. He's like, I can't be a bus driver. Flew out here, started Mo Bettis, and now it's one of the most successful franchises on the West Coast.
Cedar's getting one now.
Yeah.
Little
and
Cedar.
And Chemo will drive down around his Harley with all of his kids. And no, I think his son just got back home from a mission.
Cool.
His daughter is the GM at the Bountiful store, I think. Anyway, yeah, like Chemo's, I don't know if I call him a friend, but I know Chemo.
Right.
And he's cool. But anyway, it's just crazy. Like, it's just do it and have fun. And like, they were just having fun. Like, what the coolest part about Chemo Mac's story, he did not make up any recipes. All of the things that you eat at Mo Bettis are things that he cooks for his family in his house.
For sure.
Like, they all cook that. Like, that stuff. And I'm also Hawaiian. And that's just what I like, mac salad, pulled pork. Like, that's just what we ate. That's just what we ate. Like, that's just growing up. And he's like, don't reinvent the wheel. Like, we just cooked what we cooked at home and we started selling it to people. And actually, it was called Mo Bettis Steaks at first. And they sold ice cream. And then they changed it to drop the steaks, stopped selling ice cream, and then just sold that. And dude, wild story. That's a 2-hour podcast that I think everybody should listen to. But it's like all the way back to number 12. So anyway, I appreciate your time, dude.
Yeah,
I want to get you guys home visit.
I love it.
Crazy weather, but sorry, did you drive up here from Cedar? Are you staying here for Christmas or what?
We drove up here for Cedar. It gives me an excuse to come up here. I like coming up here about once a month. So I'm going to dinner with Michael right after this.
Oh, cool.
And staying with one of my mission companions who I've run businesses with. So it's just a good time to catch up with him. And Yeah, so
That's cool.
I mean,
What part of Cedar? Because I served in SUU. I
right.
served on the campus.
Yeah, so I mean, I have family that lives on like Dewey Avenue.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
right there by.
One of my buddies that I just went to work with, he's from Cedar. I think his wife's from Cedar too. Do you know any Giles?
Yeah, I know some
Down
Giles.
Giles?
Yeah, I know some Giles.
I worked with him. He's crazy, bro. Down Giles. I'll text that guy after. He's a wild.
For sure.
All right, cool. So tell us where everybody can find if they want to get a hold of Super Closer, if they want to do any of that, and anything else you want to plug.
Sure, yeah. I'm kind of the gatekeeper, so shoot me a DM on probably Instagram.
Cool.
Just J Strand.
Okay.
No spaces, just JayStrand. I've been putting out a lot more content. My goal for 2022 is put out more content and be on podcasts, right? And
Sure.
so I had the opportunity to do it before 2022.
Yeah.
So just freaking do it. Like literally that's what it comes down to is just do it.
Yeah.
And so personal branding is massive in today's economy, right? I've started so many different businesses and there's so much different startup costs into it. If you have a personal brand, I mean, that wipes out half of the startup costs because people are following you as an individual and they'll follow your brands. So that's one thing that I'd suggest to anyone is start a personal brand. Yeah. Because I don't know anyone that's anyone that doesn't have a personal brand or isn't polarizing in any way, shape, or form. They share their opinions. If you have an opinion, speak it.
Yeah.
Don't give a good crap if you don't say anything. So
that's what you gotta do. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So
all right, well,
J Strand on Instagram, reach out there and
cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. That's it, man. Thank you.